It's a tragedy that most modern Protestants have zero knowledge of the women of the early Christian faith. We hear stories of church fathers all day long, but there are so many stories of women that aren't heard. It's criminal because women had a tremendous role to play in the advancement of the early church. Take the story of Perpetua and Felicitas. Perpetua wrote a first-hand account of her and Felicitas' captivity in Carthage due to their Christian faith and their refusal to worship Emperor Septimius Severus. In around 203 AD, when Perpetua was around 22 years old, they were executed in the arena by being thrown to beasts, and when the beasts didn't do the job, Perpetua was killed by the sword. The account of Perpetua's martyrdom is the oldest direct record we possess of a Christian woman's experience as a captive of Rome. I mean, yeah, other women have been put to death by Rome, but hers is the first handwritten account that we possess today. Vibia Perpetua was born around 182 AD near Carthage, and she was a young wife, a new mother, and a noblewoman. She knew how to read and write, her beauty was well known, and her father was a well-known, wealthy civil servant. Perpetua was a disciple of a man named Satyrus, a member of the Montanist Christian community, which placed a heavy emphasis on the movement of the Holy Spirit and of prophecy, believing that the Holy Spirit spoke to people through dreams and visions. And in 202 AD, Perpetua, mere months after giving birth, was arrested with her servant Felicitas, who was pregnant, and Saturninus, Secundulus, and another servant named Revocatus, for refusing to pledge loyalty to the emperor. And after their arrest, Satyrus surrendered himself to the magistrate, proclaiming his Christian faith as well, choosing to be with his disciples. While the empire didn't force Christians to abandon their faith, Christians were mandated to exhibit patriotism to the emperor once annually. Montanists, however, took an extremely hard line on this. They believed that expressing patriotism to the emperor violated their commitment to Christ, viewing any devotion to worldly powers as potentially evil. And this refusal to comply was seen by Roman authorities not just as a religious stance, but a rejection of civic responsibility. And the Romans considered such a refusal akin to atheism, which in Rome was punishable by public execution. But Perpetua was deeply involved in her church community, and we have her writings that recount the conversations with her father about her faith as he begged her to recant while she was in prison, where she defies him to follow Jesus and says, "Father," said I, "do you see this vase here, for example, or water pot or whatever?" "Yes, I do," said he. And I told him, "Could it be called by any other name than what it is?" And he said, "No." Well, so too I cannot be called anything other than what I am, a Christian. At this, my father was so angered by the word Christian that he moved towards me as though he would pluck my eyes out, but he left it at that and departed, vanquished along with his diabolical arguments. Her journal has other back and forths with her father, who's eventually beaten with a rod for speaking out of line in front of the governor during Perpetua's hearing, while Perpetua watched in sorrow. Hilarianus then said, "Have pity on your father's gray beard. Have pity on your infant son. Offer this sacrifice for the welfare of the emperor." "I will not," I retorted. "Are you a Christian?" said Hilarianus. And I said, "Yes, I am." And at that, he sentenced her and those with her to execution in the arena. While in prison, she suffered greatly. Her journal details her physical pain at being separated from her child and inability to breastfeed. And during this process, prison guards were bribed to move Perpetua to a different location, and her child was brought to her so that she could feed him. But soon thereafter, imprisoned together, Perpetua and her servant Felicitas joined in prayer with two specific intentions: for Perpetua's milk to cease and her baby to be fully weaned, and for Felicitas to deliver her child prematurely. This was so they could face martyrdom at the same time, as legal restrictions prevented pregnant women from being placed in the arena. And Felicitas, too, was offered the chance to avoid martyrdom and renounce her beliefs. And like Perpetua, she chose not to. And so Perpetua and Felicitas continued their prayers in the bowels of the prison. And soon, their prayers were answered. Felicitas delivered her child a month early, a baby girl, and the girl was given to another woman to raise as her own. And with their prayers fulfilled, Perpetua and Felicitas were ready to face their fate, side by side. Perpetua was renowned for her prophetic dreams and visions, some of which she wrote of in her journal she kept in captivity. In one dream, she stepped on the head of a serpent to ascend a ladder that appears stretching from the ground into the heavens, echoing Genesis 3 and Genesis 28. And when she reached the top of the ladder in the heavens, she was offered milk by a shepherd who addressed her as "my child." And after awakening from the vision, with the taste of sweet milk still in her mouth, she knew she was destined to die in the arena. In another vision the night before her execution, she wrote of herself transforming into a man to take on a savage Egyptian in gladiatorial combat, who she knew was the devil. And in the vision, she defeated him, earning a wand from a Christ-like figure of enormous stature. She knew that her fate was to die in the arena, but she also knew that she would emerge victorious. The next day, she and her friends were brought into the arena. The Acts of the Christian Martyrs goes into detail concerning what happened to those in the arena sentenced to execution, which I'm not going to describe because the content filter would probably flag this video. But after being scourged, they were forced to face the beasts of the arena, which included a bear, a leopard, a boar, and a mad heifer. And the standard practice was to strip offenders naked before being thrown to the beasts. Upon stripping the two young mothers naked, the crowd was said to have reacted angrily, demanding the two women be covered before their execution. After being savaged by the animals, the job wasn't done for those to be executed. So a young, inexperienced gladiator was sent out to slit the throats of the dying. And the first strike on Perpetua was said to hit bone, causing her to scream out in agony, causing the young slave gladiator to shake with fear. And to help him in his fear, for the second strike, Perpetua guided his sword to her throat by her own hand. Now I'm going to let you breathe a minute. Wow. I mean, just wow. The story of Perpetua was like a match to gasoline for the early church. Here was a noble woman of privilege, a prophetess who gave everything for her faith. Her and Felicitas' story became a rallying cry of rejecting security, money, and status for Christ. Their story is a story of rejection of social norms and power structures and left a huge mark on the early church. Augustine himself wrote 4 sermons about her, and in Carthage, a basilica was erected over the tomb of the martyrs, where inscriptions have been found bearing the names of Perpetua and Felicitas. They're honored as saints in the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic faiths, and are honored in the Lutheran, Episcopal, and Anglican traditions, and have a place in the Book of Common Prayer. But most nowadays don't know their names. It's a real shame many don't know the story of these mighty women of the early church, whose stories directly inspired those of the faith to face down an empire, giving everything of themselves so others would be inspired by the love and devotion they showed for their beliefs. The courage of Perpetua and Felicitas is a testament to the vital role that women played in shaping the early Christian church. And it's time that we recognize and celebrate these women, not only as historical figures, but as symbols of faith, strength, and defiance against oppression. By ignoring their contributions, we not only dishonor their memory, but miss out on a rich and diverse history that has the power to inspire and guide us in our own spiritual journeys. So let the story of Perpetua, Felicitas, and many others like them be a clarion call for a more inclusive understanding of our religious heritage, one that embraces the full humanity of those who laid down their lives for their faith. And in doing so, may we draw from their wisdom and courage, ensuring that their legacy continues to enrich and challenge us today. God bless.